Well, good evening, fellow Americans. Yep, we're here at the Rockin' K 2.0. Got my old tractor going today and my shredder and got going. It's an old tractor, so I got to work on it some more. That's the way it goes. But we'll get her done tomorrow. Yeah, I hope everybody had a great weekend. We had a really productive, good weekend and a really good spiritual rest day yesterday. Yeah, before I go any further with growing old with Roger, I thought I'd share some road trips with you because I've had some people share some road trip experiences with me that are some old friends of his and stuff. And road trips with Roger were unique, to say the least. There's never a dull moment with him anyway. So if you're on a road trip, it's always special. I remember I had a brand new 1976 Cutlass S. I don't think it had 50 miles on it. If it did, it was 50 miles we put on it going over to Costa Falls. And we went over there in the springtime, so the water was up. We went through the low water crossing area. And we were all sitting around debating. You could see, we watched a truck go over it, didn't have a problem with it. But man, we had like 8 people in the car, maybe more. So that thing was riding low. And I remember we were all got out on the side and we're all debating, and this, that, and the other. And I don't know, it's always been my motto and my Rogers motto, when in doubt, punch it. That's got me out of some vehicle problems more than once in my life. Going through mud and whatever and having a trailer behind you and having it come up and zigzag you and about to throw you off the road, and you just, when in doubt, punch it. So we got in and started easing across, and it was a good, I'd have to say 40 yards across there, maybe not quite that far, but the lowest area of it where the water was probably 1.5 foot deep. Maybe not quite, maybe a foot deep. Right dead center was probably, 10 yards. So we're going across, we're easing, and we've got a big load, which I think really helped. But we get all the way, and the water is up halfway up the car. There's no water coming in. It was sealed tight. And I got through the deepest part and my tail end was hanging out and I could feel the tail end go to the side and, I punched it and we made it out of there. I mean, we're lucky aren't just rolling down the Costa drowning. I mean, it was just, crazy stuff. And so we went on and, up and through the crossing and over to the falls, and we all had a great time. And I'll never forget that when we got through, there wasn't a state park then, it is now. And so it was just a road down a bunch of trees and people parked in there and stuff like that. It was really better then than it is now. But everybody's putting their stuff in the trunk. And I was the last person. And I had, like stripped off and put my shorts on real quick, and everybody's walking away. And I had a hold of the trunk, and I turned and said, "Hey, everybody got everything?" You go, "Yep." And I went, bam. And I mean, just before it slammed shut, it dawned on me my keys were in my pocket, in the trunk. So I just said, "Hey, we'll get it out later. Let's go have fun." So we all went and had a blast, and we came back, and I mean, 76 is about the time they started building them where you just can't get in them unless you got one of the Jimmy things, which were in the middle of nowhere. We didn't have it. And there was somebody else was there, and they came pulling in, and we asked them. I said, "The only thing I can do, Roger, is just pop it pop it off, with a screwdriver. And he goes, man, it's a brand new car. And he said, man, really? I said, well, we ain't getting out of here if we don't. So I said, okay. So I got the screwdriver from the guy and popped that baby out of there, stuck the screwdriver in and opened it up, and we all went home. And then I had to get that replaced, and it took a long time to get that done, procrastination and that kind of stuff. And then in the meantime, Roger and Rufus had gone to Arkansas. We're going to have a big party. If I'm not mistaken, it was going to be one of those rodeo parties at DeKalb out at the house out there, the 100 Oaks place I was telling you about, where we were going to go see Willie Nelson or somebody like that. And so Roger and them get the idea, him and Rufus are going to go, because it's dry county. You had to go to Oklahoma or Arkansas to get any kind of beer or anything. So they decided they're going to go get a keg. So they take off to get a keg, and you think you get profiled now. I mean, if you didn't have short hair and you weren't black, and you weren't white, clean cut, and it didn't matter if you were white or not, if you had long hair up in Northeast Texas. There was one really, I've never seen one in my life, but this guy, this guy was an evil, bad egg, and he was a highway patrolman, which I say, that's what I'm saying. I've never seen one. Most of them are just genuine, honest, good people. And this guy kind of knew my car, and we had a little reputation going on up there in DeKalb, but him and Rufus went up there to get the keg, man. Next thing I know, they're calling me, can you come get us out of jail? I went, what the heck? He goes, yeah, they got us for bootlegging. I went, you gotta be kidding me. What it was is they pulled up and saw that the trunk had been broke out. So there's probable cause, and that's all they need is probable cause, and to pull you over. They can pull you over anyway and say whatever they want anyway, but that was their deal. And they got him to open the trunk, and there's the keg, and they had to pay a fine and that kind of stuff. And I'm sure they thought they had drugs on them, but they didn't. So we got them. We kept them from spending the night in jail, and I got to get my car. It wasn't pounded out. But the jail they take them to is the local county jail there in New Boston. So, the sheriff and them all knew me anyway. So I got to get my car back and that kind of thing. But we didn't have a keg for the weekend, so it wasn't as much fun. So then we had to go to Oklahoma. I think we had to go to Oklahoma. This is what they say. Texas is 6-point beer. Oklahoma's 2-3 or 3-2 beer. Not near as much alcohol. And so I don't know if there's any truth in that. Back in the day, I think there was, because we'd go to South Texas where they had it, and it didn't seem like it took as much. You go to Arkansas, I don't think it was 6-point, but it was more than Oklahoma. So we had to run to Oklahoma to get the party going and all that kind of stuff. But that was a couple of road trips that, because we broke that latch out of the car, that Roger and them wound up getting in trouble. I was talking to a good friend of his, Mike Quinn, the other night, and Mike was telling me we were talking about road trips, and he said, yeah, you mentioned that Cadillac, and he said he had that Cadillac in Arkansas and said it had an automatic dimmer. So they decided they're going to take a trip to Lawton, Oklahoma to go see Chad and this other guy, and he said the automatic dimmer, when it got dark, malfunctioned. So every time a car lights would hit the dimmer, it'd go beep, 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 up and down, up and down, up and down, like, flashing. And then when they'd leave, it'd go normal. And he said, man, they'd go by there honking their horn. It was making people mad. He said, Roger couldn't do anything about it. And he said that was all the way to Lawton that night that went on. And he said Roger's all kind of half upset and they're mad. But Mike said they were just laughing their butts off. What could you do, but that old Cadillac was cool. Yeah, there was a lot of those old cars were way before their time. That it would look like a little jet engine shaped thing, because they always try to make them aerodynamic. So right out there underneath. Well, I think it was inside. It was right on the dash behind the windshield. And when the car light hits it, well, it automatically dim your lights, which was a cool deal as long as it worked. You know, you didn't have to doop, 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 doop. You know, it would never weren't on the dash. They're always in the floor of them old cars. I tell you what, I had a car. My first car was Roger's hand-me-down. This is another one I was growing up with Rogers, where you get these hand-me-downs, especially when you're the middle child. And I think the engine was bad in it or something like that. My dad knew this guy at the Volkswagen place, and he got the engine fixed for me. And it was a rag top, and I mean, it was a rust bucket. It was, but I didn't care. It was my first car. It was blue. It was a Karmann Ghia, Volkswagen Karmann Ghia, and that was Roger's first car. And I thought that I was foaming at the mouth to drive that thing, and you know, to get my license. You know, these days, kids, my kids wait till they're 18 to get a license. They didn't care. You know, man, I wanted mine at 12. But when Roger, you know, he got a different car, and so I got that car. Well, they were really cool because you had a 1 gallon, what do you call it, emergency tank on there. You could turn it to the right and fill it up. And then when you fill it up, you take that little, and it was right down underneath on the floorboard in front of the, you know, right on the bottom of the floorboard, up against the firewall. And then when you filled it up, you turned it to the left, and that locked in a gallon of gas. It was really neat because all those electrical stuff were so unreliable, especially on those. You know, your gas gauges didn't work half the time, and so you had no idea how much gas you had in it. And I would just run it till it ran out, and then when you do that, you flip that, you got 1 gallon, and that'll get you 30 miles at least. And it was a pretty neat little thing to have. But the doors were bad, and I couldn't get parts for it. So I had these lawnmower ropes back in the day, the wooden handle, you know, with a string going through it, tied a knot in it. Well, I ran that rope through that handle and into the car and tied it off to the brace for the rack top. And I just hop in and out of it. Didn't matter. It was like an old race car or something, you know, the door, I didn't care if the door's open or not. You know, you're young, you don't care, you just climb in and out of the thing. I love that car. It was awesome. Just low to the ground. You know, Volkswagens, when you're tall, they've got lots of room in the front. And so you can sit, you know, you stretch right out because the engine's in the back. But I was coming home from Walters, Oklahoma one night, where we had lived for a while. I was telling y'all about that. And they had gas wars up there. I mean, I had a 10-gallon tank, and I could fill the thing up when the gas wars were going on for $1. I mean, it was 11 cents, 10 cents a gallon, 11 cents a gallon. Once they started the war, it was who could get the cheapest gas and get the most people in there. So that was real in Oklahoma, gas wars. And so I was trying to get some cheap gas, and I was at a stop sign from a country road going onto the main road in Lawton, and I went to turn, and there was a gas station on the corner, but I couldn't see the sign. And so when I turned, I went and looked back like that, and was just about to get dark, so everybody had their lights on. And when I looked back up, I was halfway over the yellow line, and cars in front of me were honking their horn and dodging. And I got back over where the car behind that one was a cop. Sure enough, woo, pulled me over. So I'm sitting there, and he comes up, asks my license. I give it to him, tells me to get out. And I started climbing out the window, and he grabbed my head and just shoved it back in. He said, "I said get out." Oklahoma, I tell you what, their cops, highway patrol especially, they didn't play. I mean, if the speed limit was 45 and you went 46, they'd give you a ticket. Back in the day, I don't know if they still do that, but I mean back then that was it. I mean, if you had an open container in the back of your car, they would confiscate your car. That's how, you know, Gestapo, I call it. I mean, you know, I know it's the law, but you know, you can, you know, you don't have to be that strict about it. Like, you know, I think in Texas now, if they set there, I've asked a couple of cops, one of them said he sets it at 15 miles an hour over the limit. The other one says 11, because 10 miles an hour is the emergency speed limit. So if they don't want to bust people for emergency speed limit, you can go 10 miles an hour, so they don't. So, and anyway, the cop was real adamant about me getting out of the door and not climbing out. And so I had to untie my door. It took a while, and got out, and he checked me. Of course, back then was growing my hair out, and I had it down on my shoulders, and I think I had a headband on with an Indian headband. And up there, I was pretty dark, even left over from the Bahamas, and that was a few years out, but I always worked out in the sun. So I got really dark. And so a lot of people thought I was an Indian. And anyway, the cop, he didn't give me a ticket. I told him, I was real honest. I didn't mean to. I was told him what I was doing, and I don't know how I got out of it, but I didn't get a ticket. But that was Roger's hand-me-down. That was a Karmann Ghia. It was awesome. Really cool. Love that car. But, there were many, many road trips to take with Roger, and they were crazy. I was talking to his buddy, Larry Longino, when I think they were 16 to 18, somewhere around in there. I think, somewhere in that range. We'd gone up, Arkansas to split season for Deerwood. So you could bring the kids, and then on one night, because you'd always be back there visiting grandma and all that kind of stuff. So the wives were around. So on Saturday night, I think it was, they would have a family night. So the wives would come up, and the kids are getting to hunt and that kind of thing. Well, we were out, the younger ones, and if Roger's 16, I'm probably 14, 13. I think he's probably 70, because I don't know if I was 30. Anyway, somewhere around there, what I'm talking about. 11 or 12 years old. So they let us go. I think we got there, what it was is the deer season opened on a Saturday morning, and we got there Friday, and we had to wait, but they let us take our squirrel guns. We all had 410s. A couple of them had 22s. And there was about 8 of us, little guys, and we went out hunting squirrels. And we came upon probably a 600-pound sow hog. I mean, she was huge. And somebody yells, "Bear," because she was black. And I mean, from a distance, when we thought it was a bear. And we go running up there, and she starts snorting at us and act like she's going to get after us. And somebody hauled off and shot, and then we all unloaded on her. I mean, it was kind of sad to talk about it now, but it took every one of us to bring her down, and we did. We go running back to camp. Guess what we got? We got a hog. Well, our dads come out there and said, "Man, that was Farmer so-and-so's," and they were acting like they're mad at us. I found out later they really weren't. They just didn't want us shooting anything but squirrels is what it was. And so they got the hog. Y'all go back to camp, and y'all stay there, and we're going to go butcher this thing, or we're just going to go haul it off. That's what they said. So they were gone a long time. When they came back, they had 2 hindquarters and some backstraps off that big hog. And Brother Shoal, my dad's childhood friend, Larry thought he was a minister. I said, no, they just called him Brother Shoal because he would get up and say, "Lordy, Lordy, we could have church today." He'd be saying stuff like that, or, but anyway, he was our cook, and he was a good cook, and he cooked up some ham, and we had beans and ham. I mean, it turned out that year, nobody got a deer, so that was the only camp meat we had. And so it wound up being a good thing. But that night, the Saturday night, the night after, Roger, James Graves, and Larry Longino were there, and they had us all out there telling us ghost stories, and boy, up in those mountains, and you're in the tall trees, it's dark. I mean, really dark. And we were all of us kids. There's probably 10 of us. I said 8 when hunting, but there was more. And anyway, all us little kids are all around the campfire, big old campfire. And they started doing stuff. And then they started saying, that they're doing a witch's brew, and they're, "Oh, when are we gonna brew?" I mean, they were acting on, having a really putting on a show, and it was really entertaining. We were all just like half scared because they were telling some real scary stories. And then Roger said something. I mean, he had some water, and there was a can in the middle of the fire. It had some old French fries in it, and it wound up being Crisco can. And we didn't know. And Roger goes, and I'm going to call up whatever, abracadabra. And he throws that water in that fire. And I mean, it exploded. A huge ball of fire. Oh, it was huge. And it singed the hair on Roger, James Graves, and Larry Longino's eyebrows and their faces. That's how it exploded like gasoline. But it was like a boom. It was huge. And Larry said when he looked around, all of us guys, all you could see was our butts and the tops of our feet because we fell back and rolled off our benches. And man, our dads poured out of there and were starting out of the cabin. They were playing poker, and they used to come out there and just started jumping all over us. I mean, up one side, down. Not us, Roger, Larry, and James Graves, accusing them of throwing cherry bombs. And cherry bombs were big bad boys back then, M80s and stuff. I mean, these things blow your hand off. But they thought that's what they were doing, and we had to explain to him, and that cam was still there, and he goes, here, watch. And he did it again. It went up again. And so then I think my uncle or somebody came out and goes, yeah, you throw water on hot grease, it's accelerant. It'll explode. I didn't know that. I'm glad I learned it because if you ever have a grease fire, don't ever pour water on it. Whatever you do, pour salt or whatever. But anyway, that was just another one of those Roger deals that his friends were telling me stories about. And I just, reminisce on those old stories. They were so much fun. There's a lot of those deer camp stories. I'll tell you a couple more tomorrow night. We're already looking at 21 minutes into this. But hey, we're hopefully I really see light at the end of the tunnel. This thing's not, as awful as they said it was gonna be. They miscued the numbers. So I'm not saying it's not real. Trust me, I'm not. I don't have a spirit of fear. The Lord said he'd take care of me, and I don't fear that stuff at all, because that's my faith. And I pray and wish that all of y'all would have that kind of faith. Like I say, they're doing things around this country that they shouldn't be doing, regardless of this pandemic or not. If you want to go outside your home, you should be able to go outside your home, especially if you're dressed properly, like they said, and that kind of stuff. That's against the Constitution. I don't care what you say. The old glory back there ain't flying for nothing. So that's what I mean. We need to be united. And if you cow down, because they're starting to say wear patches, where everybody's got to have a vaccine, and you got to have a card. Man, that's communism. Think about it, guys. Wake up. That's not America. That's not the Constitution of the United States. You shouldn't have to have that. They're saying because of this, that's what some people are wanting to push. And I don't care how bad it is. They can't make you do that. And if you roll over and wet on yourself, everybody's going to be doing that. So we got to make a stand. And like I said, stand together. I know Roger would. He wouldn't put up with it. He'd stand up and go, really? Bite me. He would be more than that, but you know what I'm saying? But I do believe this is going to be over. There's a lot of propaganda out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Like, I quit watching the news because they're liars. I don't care who they are. I don't care if they're Fox. I don't care who they are. They're liars. And they've been proven liars. And so if you watch that stuff, you're going to get filled full of, you know what? Garbage in, garbage out. I don't listen to that garbage at all. Don't. So I love you guys very much. I love America. Peace be with you. We'll talk again tomorrow. Hopefully we can all get through this. We'll get through it. I mean, this is, like I said, this is America. But we need to make a stand. There's no doubt about it. And we'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.